Hey, what is going on, guys? My name is Nick, and in today's video, I'll finally be sharing this secret stock with you guys that I've been buying like crazy over the past few months and have now built into my largest position. Now, you may have heard me mention this stock once or twice on the channel before, but now I feel it is my duty to share this with you guys because I think it's such an undervalued opportunity in the stock market right now. Anyways, without keeping you in the dark any longer, the stock that I've been buying heavily is Trulieve Cannabis with ticker symbol TCNNF on the US OTC exchange, or in Canada, it's TRUL.CN on the Canadian Securities Exchange, or the CSE. So as of now, I'm holding 698 shares worth about $25,000 Canadian, and this is my largest stock position. As you would know, I recently uploaded a video talking about why the cannabis industry is about to explode. And now I'm putting my money where my mouth is because I have never been more bullish on this industry before, and I am super bullish on Trulieve. So if you haven't seen it, I would highly recommend watching that video before watching why I'm aggressively buying Trulieve, because then this video will make a whole lot more sense. Anyways, all I ask is that you guys destroy the like button for me for all of the transparency and research that went into this video. And if you haven't already, definitely consider subscribing for more future investing content and updates on my stock portfolio in the future. And with that said, let's get right into Trulieve stock. So I divided this video into 4 parts to make it easily digestible for you. The first part being about Trulieve as a company, the second part being their financials, thirdly the stock valuation, and then finally their future growth prospects. Alright, so let's first talk about Trulieve as a company and what the heck they do. Trulieve is one of the largest cannabis multi-state operators in the US, also known as an MSO, with a market cap of just below $4 billion, where the majority of their operations are based out of Florida. And if you aren't already aware, an MSO is just the term used for a cannabis company that operates in more than one state and is vertically integrated, meaning they have cultivation operations all the way through to the dispensaries where they sell the cannabis. And since cannabis is still federally illegal in the US, these companies have to abide by state laws and can only operate where cannabis is legal for medical and or recreational use. Anyways, Trulieve has 101 dispensaries in 5 states across the US, where 91 of which are located in Florida, and then they have over 2.2 million square feet of cultivation facilities across the country. In fact, they just recently announced this 91st dispensary on September 1st, and they continue to add 1 or more dispensaries every month, so they're definitely growing quickly. So as we can see from this map, Trulieve is currently operating in Florida, California, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, and Massachusetts, while they have planned operations currently under construction in West Virginia and Georgia. So obviously right now, Trulieve is very concentrated in the state of Florida, where they have about 90% of their dispensaries, and then they also boast a market share of 48%. And this is why they're trying to diversify their portfolio through entering new states, but also through mergers and acquisitions to be able to replicate their success that they've had in Florida into these other states. In fact, Trulieve announced back on May 10th of 2021 that they'll be acquiring Harvest Health and Recreation, which is an Arizona-based cannabis MSO, in an all-stock deal where Harvest shareholders will receive 0.117 of a Trulieve share for each of their Harvest shares. So this is obviously huge news for Trulieve, and now the map probably makes a whole lot more sense, where you can see the combined company would have over 145 dispensaries, along with new operations in Arizona, Colorado, Nevada, and Maryland. And this acquisition would end up making Trulieve the largest cannabis company in the world. Alright, but now moving on to the company's brands. Trulieve creates very high quality cannabis products ranging from flower, concentrates and extracts, vapes, edibles, topicals, you name it. And the company now has over 700 plus SKUs, which are just unique products that they sell, which is a huge catalog of products. On top of this, Trulieve also reported some of their customer metrics back in Q1 of 2021. So firstly, their Q3 2020 customer retention rate was 79%, meaning that 4 out of every 5 customers that visited a Trulieve store returned to buy again. On average, active customers visited 2.9 times per month, with an average basket size of $108 per visit, and this is absolutely ludicrous in my opinion. Then the average annual customer spend in Q4 of 2019 was $3,900 versus $2,800 in Q4 of 2018. So they're definitely seeing revenue growth on a per patient basis as well. And lastly, they generate less than 1% of returns based on their total sales, so this just speaks for the quality of the product. Finally, I just briefly want to talk about Trulieve's management before getting into the financials, because the management is so crucial to a successful company, and I think it's super important to look at. Now, Trulieve has incredible management, especially the CEO, Kim Rivers. So it says here she has 15 years of experience of running successful businesses from real estate to finance, along with a legal background in mergers and acquisitions, which I believe has come to be very helpful with the Harvest acquisition. But looking past her credentials, after watching several interviews of Kim Rivers, I can tell that she's a very well-spoken person and definitely understands what she's talking about. She understands the cannabis industry very well, having been the first to market in Florida, and then also she's not afraid to take risks or do mergers and acquisitions, which is a great quality as a CEO. Not to mention, she's also received several awards for her leadership, which is also great to see. And if you want to learn more about Kim Rivers, Daniel Pronk actually posted an interview that he had with her, so definitely check that out on his page. But now let's jump into Trulieve's financials, because that's what investors care about most. So Trulieve announced their latest Q2 2021 earnings on August 12th and reported record numbers across the board. Their revenues came in at $215.1 million compared to $120.8 million a year ago, which was 78% year-over-year growth. And from this, they generated a gross profit margin of 67%, which is industry leading. If we compare this to Curaleaf, which is another larger MSO also operating in Florida, they produced a gross margin in Q2 of 2021 of just under 50%. So Trulieve's 67% margin is obviously impressive. Then Trulieve's net income came at $40.9 million compared to $18.9 million a year ago, representing 116% year-over-year growth. So we can calculate their net income margin by dividing the $40.9 million by the $215.1 million in revenues, which gives us 19%, and this is a very solid net income margin. Just to give you an idea of how great this is, let's compare it to Amazon, which is already an insanely profitable business today. And their highest net profit margin is only 6.6% right now. Now, of course, margins will eventually compress for Trulieve as consolidation occurs in the industry and more competitors get in there, but it already just shows how profitable this business really is and can be. Now, from the income statement, I just want to highlight one really important metric to investors, and that would be the share-based compensation. Here we can see that Trulieve barely pays out any share-based compensation, which is only $700,000 per quarter at the current rates. And based on their revenue of $215 million for the quarter, this equates to 0.3% of their sales. Again, if we compare this to Curaleaf, we can see that they paid out $18.4 million in share-based compensation based on revenues of $312.2 million, and this was 5.9% of their total revenue, or 20 times more than Trulieve pays. So here we can clearly see the difference in financial responsibility between these two companies, where Trulieve has the investor's interest in mind and they're not trying to line their own pockets. But now let's get into Trulieve's balance sheet for the second quarter of 2021. So the first thing we can see here is their cash and cash equivalents being $289.2 million, which is great to see for a company trading just below a $4 billion valuation. Also, their total assets are $442 million, while their total current liabilities are $77 million, meaning that they have a current ratio of 5.7 right now. Not only that, but they could pay off all of their current liabilities with their cash 3.75 times over, which puts them in a very stable financial position, especially considering the company is already profitable. This also shows how little debt that Trulieve carries on the balance sheet, which is a very good sign because they probably will never go bankrupt. Now, I also want to highlight the amount of goodwill and intangible assets that Trulieve has on their balance sheet. If you weren't aware, goodwill is the amount of money that has been paid for an acquisition above the book value of the actual assets. So it's sort of a phony asset that doesn't really mean a whole lot to investors. In fact, Peter Lynch says if too much of a company's total assets consisted of goodwill, I would have no confidence in its book value or in its shareholders' equity. Whereas intangible assets could be intellectual property, brand value, or other secret sauce information that the company has that gives it apparent value. Now, looking at Trulieve, for instance, if we combine their goodwill and intangible assets, it only accounts for about 16.9% of their total assets. However, when it comes to Curaleaf, we can see that their goodwill and intangible assets, when we total it up, it comes to 53.9% of their total assets. So more than half of their assets are intangible. So obviously Trulieve is not trying to inflate their book value artificially or increase their shareholders' equity. but that is certainly not the case for Trulieve. And finally, let's take a quick look at Trulieve's statement of cash flows. So Trulieve generated $49.2 million in operating cash flow, while they spent $136.7 million in investing activities, meaning that the company has negative free cash flow. So free cash flow is calculated by taking the operating cash flow and subtracting the capital expenditures, which were much higher than their operating cash flow in Trulieve's case. Now, this isn't necessarily a bad thing that they aren't producing free cash flow, because Trulieve is still in the growth phase of their business, and oftentimes businesses will focus on growth by investing as much capital as they can back into their business and not creating free cash flow in the beginning. And right now, Trulieve just needs to put a ton of money into creating new dispensaries, new cultivation facilities, and making acquisitions. And as we can see below, Trulieve was able to fund their growth through the net cash provided by financing activities of $230 million, where the majority of this came from issuing shares on the open market. And just like negative free cash flow, share dilution is not always a bad thing, especially if that capital is used to grow the business through strategic acquisitions and smart investments, which Trulieve has definitely been doing. Overall, guys, Trulieve's financials are basically as solid as they come in the cannabis industry, and so now let's move on to their stock valuation and then their future growth prospects. Alright, since this is a US-based company, I will be focusing on the ticker symbol TCNNF on the OTC exchange. However, as a Canadian, you can purchase this on the Canadian Securities Exchange under the ticker symbol TRUL.CN. So as of September 22nd, the stock price is sitting at $28 per share US and is down nearly 50% from its all-time high back in March of 2021. Now, there really isn't any fundamental reason as to why Trulieve stock has been dropping so much over the past few months, but rather it's because people thought that marijuana reform would happen a lot faster in the US since President Joe Biden was elected. And it should be noted that the entire cannabis sector is down significantly from its highs back in March. However, fundamentally, Trulieve has been growing its revenues and earnings over this period, making its valuation extremely cheap right now. So right now, Trulieve is trading at a market cap of about $3.7 billion, a price to earnings of 39, and a price to sales of 4.9. Now, comparing Trulieve now to where the stock was trading back in March at the peak, their market cap was $6.6 billion, a PE of 94, and a price to sales of nearly 15. So for the amount of growth that Trulieve has been seeing and will continue to see well into the future, I think this stock is incredibly undervalued at today's prices. If we even compare Trulieve's growth to Microsoft, for example, they are expected to grow their sales only 14% this year, along with their earnings at 15% growth, while they're both trading at nearly the same valuation, Microsoft being at a PE of 37. Now, even though both of these companies are completely different, I totally realize that, and Microsoft has a lot of recurring revenue, this just goes to show that Trulieve's growth is definitely not priced in. Furthermore, Trulieve's forward PE is just below 20 right now, which I think is a complete joke. It seems that the market is just very inefficient on the OTC because the stock is being perceived as risky, along with the fact that there aren't any institutional buyers to keep the stock price up. Anyways, moving on to where analysts think the stock could be in the next 12 months, the average price target for TCNNF is $69.10 US dollars, whereas the stock price today is $28 US dollars right now. Now, this represents potential upside of 146% from where the stock is today if analysts turn out to be right. Now, of course, we can't base our investment thesis on what analysts think and what they're projecting the stock to do, but this does tell us that many analysts do think that there's a disconnect between the price and the fundamentals of Trulieve. Alright, so with the stock price info out of the way, let's talk about why Trulieve is going to continue to see explosive growth over the next few years. First of all, the US cannabis industry is still growing rapidly, and it's projected to over double by 2025 to $41.5 billion in sales, being a compounded annual growth rate of 21%. And out of the entire country, Florida has the third largest cannabis market, which is still only legal for medical marijuana use and not even recreational. And let me tell you guys, Florida's market continues to grow like crazy. Currently, the state has 612,000 qualified patients and has already grown by 33% since the beginning of the year, which is crazy growth. But just imagine if Florida were to legalize cannabis for recreational use, the market would absolutely explode explode, and with Trulieve holding nearly 50% of the market share, they would benefit substantially. Anyways, looking outside of the current market growth in Florida, there are some additional upside catalysts that could propel Trulieve stock to unseen levels. One of the major potential upside catalysts, of course, would be federal legalization. This would allow cannabis to be decriminalized and declassified as a Schedule I drug, meaning that it could be used and sold anywhere in the country. However, we have no idea when this will happen, and it could take a few years. Another major catalyst to consider is the elimination of the 280E tax code. Right now, marijuana companies are subject to the 280E tax code, which states businesses selling cannabis or any other federally illegal controlled substance cannot deduct any expenses incurred in the production, distribution, and sale of that product. As a result, Trulieve ends up paying a ton more in taxes than they should be, nearly double actually, and of course this reduces their profitability. But with its potential elimination once federal legalization comes around, this could definitely boost the profitability of Trulieve along with many of the other marijuana companies and definitely increase their stock price. Now the third catalyst would be the approval of the SAFE Banking Act, which stands for Secure and Fair Enforcement Banking Act, which would allow these cannabis companies to do business with the big institutional banks. Now just this week on September 21st, the SAFE Banking Act was just added to a House bill and is now moving forward for further voting, but we'll have to see where that ends up and if it ends up being passed. However, this could be huge for cannabis companies like Trulieve because then they could get much lower interest rate loans and then also receive credit card payments because they would then have bank accounts to be able to secure those funds. Finally, the fourth and last catalyst is the uplisting of the OTC cannabis stocks to the major exchanges. As of now, Trulieve is stuck on the OTC exchange, which is known as the over-the-counter in the US because the drug is still federally illegal. However, once federal decriminalization comes around, Trulieve and other stocks could uplist to the NASDAQ or the New York Stock Exchange, which would massively increase the investor base. Not only this, but hedge funds and mutual funds are not allowed to invest in cannabis companies either for the same reason stated before, so legalization would drastically increase the amount of investment capital going to these cannabis companies. Overall, guys, there are tons of upside catalysts for Trulieve stock moving forward, and I am super excited to see what comes of it. But yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. As you can probably tell, I really love Trulieve stock. I've done a ton of research into this company, watched countless interviews of the CEO, listened to conference calls, read earnings reports, etc., and just really love the company. Now, of course, it's very important for you guys to do your own research because I don't want to be responsible if the stock goes down and you guys lose money, so make sure to do that. But if you do have any questions about Trulieve or anything on the topic of cannabis stocks, definitely shoot me a comment down below and I'll be sure to answer it as soon as possible. And so if you did enjoy the video, make sure to drop a like as it does help support my channel and I put a ton of research into this video, so I would really appreciate that. And if you haven't already, definitely consider subscribing for more investing content in the future and for future portfolio updates. And with that said, guys, I will talk to you in the next one.